What's up, YouTube? We're back here on the Allen Hour. Dylan and Andrew joining with you. Unfortunately, not on the greatest of notes. We're here a day removed from the Athletics series where the A's took the final 2 of 3 games to win the series 2 out of 3. The Yankees had a game 1 where it was the Amed Rosario legacy game, and then games 2 and 3, the offense continued to be quiet, and Amed Rosario could not come to save them like he did in that first game. And that's been the story, Andrew, for this series. I mean, there's not a whole lot to talk about in that sense. It is just games 9 through 12. You know, it's very early on in the year, or 10 through 12, I should say. It's very early on in the year. And sure, we could sit here, we could talk about everything they've done wrong. But it is true when you think, grand scheme of things, we are just in such an early part of the season. But there are some concerns that you definitely have to walk away from and look at, and you can't just really ignore through the 3 games against the Athletics this past 3 nights.
Yeah, obviously not ideal. We knew they were eventually going to lose one, and we knew that eventually maybe the offense wasn't going to be great for a series. I bet you the pitching's not going to be great for a series. It wasn't that fantastic against the Marlins. So, you're going to have these series where you're on and off, hot and cold. But yeah, I mean, obviously not what you wanted to see. The Amed Rosario game was really a product of the bottom of the lineup not performing. He gets an opportunity there because Ryan McMahon was struggling. Ryan McMahon gets a day off, even against a righty. And obviously, Amed Rosario goes off. And then the next day, Jose Caballero gets the day off. So they shift Ryan McMahon to shortstop, leave Amed at third, leave the hot hand at third. And then even going into yesterday, Jazz Chisholm, who's been struggling a little bit, needed an off day. And they put Amed Rosario there, put Caballero back at short, and kept McMahon at third. So, I mean, just a product, again, of the bottom of the lineup not really coming through just yet. Boone trying to get maybe those guys some days off their feet, reset them a little bit. But, yeah, obviously not ideal.
Yeah, not ideal at all. And just to kind of look over the background cold, some of the stats for the series, they went 13 for 90, a 144 average. If you take out those at-bats that Amed Rosario had in game 1, where he had the 2 home runs, went 2 for 4, now it's looking at, 11 for 86, which the average then I looked it up earlier. It's a 127 average. So outside of that first game, and the reason I say that game is because in games 2 and 3, Amed Rosario didn't really have as great of games. It's hard to replicate that. So it's not like he had a monstrous series and I'm taking away 3 games worth of stats, other than that one game where they were pretty much lifeless as well. If you remember, for the longest time in that first game, it was just that solo shot that was getting them through, and they couldn't bring guys in. They were able to get guys on, which has been another issue for them in this series in particular. 20 left on base for the entire series. They were able to earn 14 walks. So other than Amed Rosario, that 2 home run game where the 3-run shot gave them the 2-run lead in the 8th inning of game 1, they just couldn't figure out how to bring runs across home plate. They couldn't generate many innings where it was a walk here, single there, another walk, and just pick apart pitching. It did not work out for the Yankees and some of the bigger names in the lineup. While they did have more of the production, it just was not enough at the end of the day.
Yeah, and you look back at Tuesday, I mean, my vibe on Tuesday after they won that game was like, okay, this is a lifeless Yankees team, and, they still figured out a way to win, right? They still had a guy, Amed Rosario, who came in and figured out a way to win. And they took that one, and it kind of felt like they stole that one. And then going into Wednesday and Thursday, you were kind of like, all right, well, look, we just played terrible last night offensively, really outside of one person. We stole that game. Like, now we can just control the series and win the next 2, but we remain lifeless for the next 2. And obviously, Amed Rosario can't hit 2 home runs in every single game. So, yeah, I mean, not good numbers there. I mean, I was a little surprised to see that batting average that low. They did give themselves opportunities, which I do like. They left a lot of guys on base, but that means they were at least causing some traffic, working some counts, getting on base. So that's nice. The hit just didn't come in time in any of the games, really. But yeah, I'm interested to see where they go with this going forward, because is there decisions to make? Is it too early? We'll get into all of that.
Yeah, and I think it was very telling that obviously Amed getting the start in that first game, it was literally the day after we came on here and I was saying how I'm done with McMahon. I want to see Rosario get a bigger role, at least get the opportunity to compete for the position, because I don't think it should be a foregone conclusion that McMahon should have this position at the end of the day. I understand he's making the most money at that position. You traded for the guy last year, but sometimes if it's not working, you have to cut your losses in some way. So I give Boone credit for putting Rosario in. It ended up getting him a win in that first game. And then you see they keep trying to figure out ways to keep him in the lineup. They had him at second base in game 3. They gave Jazz the off day, so maybe you chalk it up to that. But I'm seeing ways in which Boone is trying to figure out ways to keep that bat in this lineup. Unfortunately for the Yankees, it didn't work out. Just the bats entirely went cold in games 2 and 3 of the series. But I was pleased with how he managed Ahmed Rosario. I hope it continues. I hope Boone keeps giving him more and more at bats. And while the defense is not as great as McMahon, to me, I still stand firm on my position that Rosario should get the crux of these at bats, because McMahon, I don't have the official numbers in front of me, but it is not a good start. And there are differences between very good starts, solid starts, right? Okay starts, and like bottom of the barrel starts. This is a bottom of the barrel start for Ryan McMahon. I understand it will not continue like this for the rest of the year. It would be one of the worst seasons of all time if it did. It's not going to happen. But I also do have to understand that I just don't know if we're going to get that perfect season of McMahon where he meets expectations or his quota from previous seasons with Colorado. And I don't know if in the back end, on the long term, if you look back at it, if it ends up affecting and hurting the Yankees more throughout the year because they didn't decide to cut their losses sooner. That's where my worry some kicks in. Like, do they, because they have a track record of giving guys long runways when it comes to players they think have a shot or that they invested a lot of money in, whatever the case may be. And while I get those points, I do think that there's a time and a place to give other guys chances.
Yeah, I think it's a little too early to pull the trigger. I do think eventually, and maybe even starting now, it is going to turn into more of like a true platoon situation over there where, I mean, for example, tonight, Steven Matz, I'm pretty sure, is pitching against the Yankees. So that's a lefty. You're probably going to see Ahmed Rosario in the lineup, whether that takes McMahon out or not. But I do think you're eventually going to start seeing, when a lefty's pitching, it's probably Ahmed. And when a righty's up there, it's probably going to be Ryan McMahon. I do think, again, it is too early to pull the trigger. We're not even that far removed necessarily from Ryan McMahon's playoffs. Now, Ryan McMahon didn't go above and beyond and amaze anybody in the playoffs, but he was a tremendous defender out there. He was a tremendous defender ever since really he got here from Colorado. He had an 830 OPS in the playoffs. I'm not sure where that ranked on the team, but that had to be pretty high because really nobody was hitting. It's a guy that in Colorado was a mid 750, mid 700s OPS guy. He's had 6 seasons with 20 or more home runs. He's had 5 seasons with 60 or more runs driven in. So he can be a productive bat. Now, you could say what you want. That's Coors Field. Maybe you take, that with a grain of salt because he hasn't been able to replicate that in Yankee Stadium. We'll see. I do think just his glove alone should keep him in the lineup along with his raw power, right? You're not expecting a ton from the bottom of the order, and just having a guy there that could potentially hit 20, 25 home runs. He's done it in 6 of his 8 seasons. Having a guy like that at the bottom of the lineup with gold glove, even at times platinum glove level defense, that's a hard guy for me to remove from the lineup based on a 10-game sample size. Now, given it's been a horrible 10-game sample size, as you've pointed out, it's not going to stay that way. I know you mentioned you want to see Ahmed take on more of a role. I really think the only reason he had a role in this series was because McMahon has had a slow start. Okay, McMahon has a bad start. Let's find a way to get Rosario in the game. I was shocked that they did it against a right-hander, especially because they knew they had the lefty Springs in Game 3. But nonetheless, they give Ryan McMahon an off day. That's Ahmed's chance to get in the lineup. Jose Caballero struggling just as much. He gets a day off. It's another spot for Rosario to take in. Jazz again struggling as well. He gets a day off. So I don't think that's going to continue, at least in the next couple weeks or so, unless things start to really, really pour on and get bad. But yeah, I wouldn't expect Ahmed Rosario to be in the lineup a ton going forward. Maybe still 2 times a week, which is about the pace we're at right now. But as I pointed out, I don't think I wouldn't be surprised if it turns into a true platoon eventually.
Yeah, I do think we are in the early stages of the season where McMahon will still get his fair share of at-bats. I fully acknowledge that. To me, yeah, like I said, I just don't really see the other day, I don't blame Boone at all. I know I was facetiously texting in a group chat with us, with our friends, just saying how disgusted I was seeing McMahon get an eighth inning at bat in a 1-0 game where the team had one hit at that point, thanks to Ben Rice. And obviously Boone, given the guys that he's already used off the bench and the position McMahon plays, there was no one really to plug in at that spot in that game. But it just comes down to who would I rather have up in that spot, right? At third base full time. I'd rather have the bat on ball guy, even though McMahon has the 700 OPS, career in Colorado that can hit 20 plus home runs and has more power. You want the bat, the ball guy in a spot like that where you have to generate some traffic on the bases. You just have to get a rally going. And it certainly doesn't help that McMahon's start to the year has just been swing and miss, swing and miss, swing and miss. And it just has not been able to, it seemingly put together too many competitive at-bats other than maybe a few walks here or there. That's really been the only thing he's been able to do consistently when he does get starts is mix in a walk, an 0 for 3 night with a walk is usually what he's good for at this point. So that's kind of just, in my opinion, when you look down further down the line, big spots like that in the 8th inning, like who would you rather have up, whether it be playoffs and just a regular game in the regular season, game 10, just speaking from a baseball standpoint, I'd rather have the guy who gives me a better chance of hitting a single, hitting a double, putting the bat in the ball, making the fielders make a play, even if it isn't out. Moving, if there's a guy on second base, you saw in the game against the Mariners, they had him up, he hit it in the outfield, sack fly. So sometimes in just those spots, you wish to have a more overall rounded hitter. So that's kind of where my thought for Ahmed getting a bigger role also comes into play, because I can already foresee situations like that down the line.
I will admit, I'm overall not really that concerned with the whole situation as of now. Obviously, my thoughts can change as things change going forward. But I will say one thing I am concerned about is they pointed out in spring training over and over again how Ryan McMahon's focus this offseason was limiting the strikeouts. He has like a less of a high front step, and he's more of kind of toe tapping. So that's a concern for me. If your whole offseason is dedicated to limiting strikeouts, putting more bat on ball, and then you come out in the first 2 weeks of the season and all you're doing is striking out, like that is a concern to me. I don't know if that'll continue or not, but yeah, that's definitely not what you want if the whole offseason, that's what you were trying to fix.
Yeah, it's, and again, I don't think it's going to be a full season issue. I just cut my losses while you can. And I think Boone is somewhat trying to get, maybe he won't say it obviously, but I do think he's looking for a potential reason to keep McMahon out, so he's not in the spotlight as much, getting as much hate from fans, from just questions from the media about his struggles. Because if Ahmed comes in and starts playing very well, easy, keep McMahon out, let him get at bats here and there, keep him, keep the confidence level somewhat up as much as you can for a guy that you're quote unquote benching, but then you're filling in a spot with a guy who seemingly figured it out. So it's kind of a tough one to manage.
I still don't even know if Boone would necessarily right away, because Ahmed, the game he hit 2 home runs, he replaced Ryan McMahon. Next 2 games, Ryan McMahon was back in there. Now, Rosario was also in there, but he wasn't in there in place of Brian McMahon. So I'm not sure that even Boone, yes, he might give him a day off every now and then, but I'm not even sure Boone is looking to replace McMahon necessarily with Rosario.
Yeah, I agree. And now the one, I guess, shining moment of this series was the Ryan Weathers start in Game 3. Although the Yankees did lose, and it was your true pitchers duel between Weathers and Springs of the Athletics. Ryan Weathers, 8 innings in that game, 7 hits, just one run allowed. And the thing that stood out to me was the no walks, which is something that he had struggled with through his first 2 starts, Andrew.
Really big. The no walks especially, but to me, it's just a pitch count thing. We saw this guy have 45 pitches in the first 2 innings in his first start, 55 pitches in the first 2 innings in his second start, and now in his third start, he goes through the 8th inning. Like, that's a complete 360 turnaround, and we'll get into this a little bit later on in the show, I imagine, but he was kind of the most important thing for me to see of this series. As much as maybe Ahmed Rosario playing well was nice to see, just in case, McMahon goes awry. We do have someone back there that is capable, that is a major league hitter. To me, Ryan Weathers is going to impact the season more than any of the other things that I saw this series. And seeing him locate well, that changeup is really good. He's a high velo lefty, which you don't really see much of that in a starting pitching role, high velo lefties. I mean, you think of like Tariq Skubal. That's the only one that really comes to mind
Right.
for me of a guy that can throw a high velo fastball and sinker. So it was really nice to see. I'm really high on Ryan Weathers. I know that when, if you're a Yankee fan and you're introduced to a guy for the first time, I feel like Yankee fans were already kind of shifting towards like they were almost out on Ryan Weathers because of the first two starts. They're like, all right, who is this guy? Like, let's get Cole and Rodon up here. But it was really refreshing to see because this guy has some really, really good stuff. I wanted him to put some pressure on the Yankees to make a decision when eventually Rodon and Cole, and now we see Luis Hill back tonight. When all those guys come back, I wanted to see him like, yeah, this guy's good enough to be a starter. So I'm really glad because he's a high strikeout pitcher. And if he could be a low walk pitcher too, that would just be, the cherry on top. So Ryan Weathers, man, the only really bright light in the series.
And we've talked about this at length too, being a good issue for the Yankees. You mentioned Heel coming back tonight against the Rays to make his season debut
Yes.
with the Yanks. This is a good issue for them to have, where they just seemingly have too many starters, and you could potentially by season's end have a guy like Weathers be a relief guy in the 6th or 7th inning. Potentially just another arm to throw out there in a high leverage spot that can give you high velo sinker, high velo fastball that you're kind of looking for in a bullpen arm to begin with. Not saying that will happen, but it certainly could be a possibility by season's end.
Well, somebody needs to fill it, right? I mean, you're not
Right.
going to, yes, you have an influx of guys, but that's a good thing and it's a bad thing because you need to find a way to let these guys make an impact in the series, in the season, right? So I would like to see Ryan Weathers maybe become, the Paul Blackburn, like get Paul Blackburn out of those situations in the 8th and 9th inning and like make Ryan Weathers that guy because you have a power changeup like that and a power sinker. I mean, that's like made in heaven for a high leverage reliever. I think Luis Hill could also be a pretty good high leverage reliever. I think Clark Schmidt could be like a long inning relief kind of guy. Like, so you have so many options. They do need to figure out, where to put those pieces, which guys do you keep in the starting rotation yet. But it is nice that we have a bunch of guys that can fill multiple roles if we need them to.
Yeah. So one other thing I wanted to touch on too, and we'll get to the Rays series coming up. And listen, if you're tuning in for a hate rant on the Yankees in this A's series, a part of me does want to do it just because it can be fun. But at the same time, it's when you do when you're a day removed, I feel like this kind of helps us recording on a Friday. In the moment, if we recorded this yesterday after the game yesterday, I think the tone and the tune from me at least would have been totally different. It just would have been more reactionary in the moment type of emotions. But now a day removed, you kind of take a step back, you take the blinders off and you go, listen, the A's were a solid team last year. They got a lot of young guys that are good, right? We knew Springs was a good pitcher. So not to say that we should have expected a one-hit game yesterday, but we should not have expected, 3 grand slams either. So let's not get too far ahead of ourselves there. And we understand that McMahon is a struggling bat and he's got to figure it out. So these are not things that we should be ranting on for 10, 15, 20 minutes. I know that you definitely don't want to, Andrew, because you're definitely on the more optimistic side of things. And I don't blame you. Again, if we're having this conversation in September, July, like fine, then we can spend more time on that. But the fact that we're still in the first 10 days of April here, having this conversation at 8-4, there are plenty of worse places to be in the majors at this point in the season. I just don't think it's worth our time to kind of really go in depth and just kind of really just start blaming everybody and just yelling at everybody.
100%. And I don't want anybody to click off this video, but there are plenty of forums and places that you can go and watch stuff like that. People get annoyed at whatever a 12-game sample size. But yeah, I mean, my line for kind of all of this is May. Once May starts, then you can kind of start looking at people's numbers and looking at people's trends and saying like, okay, maybe that's something that can continue. Maybe that's something that won't continue. But you see guys all the time that are like really, really hot in the first half or really, really hot in the second half. And, things go back and forth all the time. I think the prime example of it was like Pete Crow Armstrong last year, who had like a 900 OPS at the beginning of August. And then you look at the end of the year, he's sitting at like a 750 OPS. So like, you never know where guys are going to trend. It's an up and down season. It's a long season. It's unfair almost that we have 162 games to kind of determine where we're at. And then we're limited to like 10 games in the playoffs where, that's it. 162 games to play 10 games. So in a way, you can take these little short series and short slumps as like, hey, like if that happens in the playoffs, that's a problem because those are short series and that is a shortened version of the season. So you could take little things, but yeah, we're not going to harp on it too much. But trust me, if it becomes a problem and Dylan and I notice that it's a problem, we're going to talk about it. We're going to address it, and we're going to be angry when we're supposed to be angry. How about that?
Yeah, exactly. And it's
Yeah.
funny because the same fans that we're talking to in this moment will also tell you that let's just get to October. Regular season doesn't matter. Oh, Judge, yeah, he's clutch in regular season, but doesn't matter. They'll tell you all that. But as soon as someone does poorly in the regular season, they want to make it seem like they just lost the season for the Yankees. They didn't make the playoffs, this and that. So
I
take a
will
chill
say
pill.
though, after the way that last year ended, it does feel like every game is so important because we missed the division by one game, right? They had one more win than us, or we had the same amount of wins. They just had a better record against us last year, the Blue Jays. So
Yeah.
in that way, I do understand. People are like, yeah, but look at last year. Like it literally came down to one win. So any of these wins could literally be the difference. So it's hard to imagine that. It's hard to think that long term about something like this. But who knows? We could be sitting at the end of the year and like, damn, if we weren't one hit by Jeffrey Springs, maybe we win the division and put ourselves in a better spot.
It's true. And I will change my tune for any divisional series at any point
Yeah.
in the season. Could be the
Which
first.
we got the first one coming up.
We have coming up this weekend. This is a big series because, again, for the same thing you brought up, it's why it bit the Yankees in the ass last year because they just couldn't beat Toronto in the regular season. They had the tie break. And so, it's a matter of one win. But even if they had the same number of wins, did they finish with the same number? They might have even
Yeah, I think it was 94 wins. Both of them had the most wins in the MLB. Yeah.
Right. So they had the tiebreaker because they couldn't beat him in the regular season, and it was foreshadowing for what happened in the ALDS. So it shows how important those games are to the opponent. But when you're playing the A's, a team that we don't expect to make the playoffs, and if they do, maybe the wild card, it could come into play should the Yankees not win the AL East this year and they're duking it out in the wild card standings. But again, this is a team you only play 6 times a year, right? 3 there, 3 back, maybe sometimes 4 there, 3 here. 6 or 7 games, right? That's what we're really talking about here. So, but when you play the Rays, when you play the Orioles, when you play the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, you play them many more times during the season, and those games to me are more important. So I think this is a good segue into the Tampa Bay series for this weekend. The Rays coming into the series 5-7 on the year. Again, the Yankees 8-4. This will be the first road series for the Yankees since that Seattle series not too long ago. And then they come back home to play the Angels. So this is just a quick little weekend road trip for the Yankees. Go down to Tampa. It'll be the debut of Luis Gil, who's been in AAA with Scranton up to this point. They call him up and they DFA'd Winquest. So he didn't get a chance to debut at all for the Yankees, which I don't really know if I have an opinion on that, but just how it kind of unfolded for him. So unfortunately for him, he didn't even get a chance to pitch in his Yankee career. But Luis Gil makes his debut against former Met, former Cardinal, former probably a bunch of other teams, Steven Matz.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And this is a big series.
Yeah. But he's on the Rays.
He's on the Rays now, yeah.
It is a big series, first division series. First time back at the Trop since 2024. Last year we got a little home series back at our spring training stadium whenever we played the Rays. But yeah, this is going to be an important series because I think the Rays are just back to being pesky again. And they got some really good young guys. I mean, Junior Caminero, if you're unfamiliar, he's unreal. I'd be pretty surprised if people were unfamiliar with him by now, whether, what he did last year, what he did in the Home Run Derby, what he did in the World Baseball Classic. I mean, he's an absolute stud. Yandy Diaz has been doing it for years now. He's just a hit king. So they got a lot of guys that are really, really good. And they probably have a lot of guys that we don't even know about yet. They're going to burst onto the scene this year because that's the way the Rays work. So I'm pretty excited for this series. I like that Luis Gil is back. Kind of a little bit of a bad spring training. I think he only had 1 start in AAA and he let up 4 runs in like 3 innings, something like that. So something to keep an eye on for sure because Luis Gil, I feel like in years past has been more of like a high velo kind of, almost not like Cam Schlittler, but reliant on his high velo at times. And I felt like it dipped, at least in spring training this year. Now that's spring training. Who knows if he was fully up to speed? I don't know what his velocity looked like in his 1 AAA start, but I am interested to keep an eye on that because he really is kind of like a fastball slider only guy. And if that fastball is not working and really not blowing guys away, then that slider is really not going to play that well either. So it's going to be interesting to see how he performs. We got Matz, we got Martinez, Shane McClanahan we probably haven't seen in a while because he's been injured a couple times. So, yeah, going to be an interesting series. The Rays are always a pest. The Trop kind of sucks. So yeah, I mean it's gonna be eventful. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Aaron Judge gets an off day in one of these games. Giancarlo Stanton. They just try and keep something about the turf and the joints of players. They try and keep like their big guys off for at least a game. So don't be shocked if you don't see Judge in there for a game. But yeah, should be a fun series.
Well, that little nugget you put out there at the end, that kind of ties in with my MVP pick for this upcoming series. I hope it does not. I hope it doesn't. I hope it doesn't end up being the person you choose, because you will be going first this week or this series. So hopefully it's not who
Yeah.
I have in mind. But we'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, the matchup on Sunday, right? I mean, the projected matchup, Schlittler versus McClanahan, is the one that I think is must see TV. And if I had to predict, it will be the rubber match. Like, I think the Yankees realistically drop a game in this series, whether it be game 1 or 2. I think if anything, it probably would be game 1 tonight because of Luis Gil coming back. You know, I have confidence in Fried to get to pitch very well enough on Saturday to get that win, right? I think Sunday would be the rubber match game. And what a pitching matchup it would be, the eventual Schlittler McClanahan matchup. It's nice to have some division baseball back, because you like seeing the Giants, you like seeing the Mariners. Like, this is all nice, the Athletics, but these are the games where this is a team you're going to see multiple times throughout the year. And again, you said they're back at the Trop. There's just a lot to look forward to, and it feels more meaningful than this past series against the Athletics, just kind of like a middle of the week series against a whatever team. This actually feels like somewhat of playoff baseball in a way to me.
Yeah, and you said we got to hyper focus more on these division series, and you're correct in that way, especially this year, because, and people might raise their eyebrows at what I'm about to say, I genuinely think every team in the AL East could win the AL East this year, and I'm not being facetious. I think the Orioles could be really, really good with some of the things they added. The Rays have shown a capability year in, year out to be competitive, even when we don't think they're really trying to be. Obviously, Blue Jays, they just won the AL last year, and the Red Sox, who are really good. I mean, off to a terrible start this year, but have really good young guys. So you never know who's going to be there in the end. So it's really important that you get these wins against these teams early in the season. And I know, and I usually don't look forward too much in the season, but I do know that we play the Angels and then the Red Sox. So that's going to be another big series next weekend. So it's important to win these games. Obviously, we're in April. We just told you not to be, too concerned about the overall, batting and average and all that, and slumps and all that stuff. But these series are important. So the Rays, man, the Rays are so pesky. I don't like the Rays. I don't like the Red Sox. I don't like the Blue Jays. The Orioles are kind of like, eh. But the Rays, man, they just piss me off, because it seems like they should be a lot worse than they are. And when they dominate the Yankees, and the Yankees have their, third highest payroll in baseball, and they're getting stampeded by the Rays, who probably are like last in payroll or close to it, it's like it hurts. It hurts.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, listen. Yeah, I will listen. Look at the standings right now. I got them pulled up. The big thing that stands out to me is the run differential between all 5 teams. The Yankees being the only team in green, and by a good number, plus 25, right? And the Orioles, who you mentioned, have a chance to win this, only 4 under. But the rest, I mean, look at Toronto, right? We're talking how they might be the best. They might repeat winning the division this year, and possibly making another World Series run. 22 runs negative, right, in the run differential. Tampa minus 14, Boston minus 11. So, albeit these teams, we both agree. I would say I would agree with you. I think most of these teams have a chance to win the division, probably all of them. But right now, it's been sluggish starts for 3 out of the 5. And, the Yankees have been the clear best team so far. So it just goes to show, like, even with minus 14 run differential, they're still almost a 500 ball club. So they obviously figure out ways to win games. We know that they play a pesky style of baseball that we've seen it. They don't have a Rosarena anymore, thank God, but we've seen what they can do even without him. So it definitely, it's a team that you don't want to have to be in a Duke with at the end of the year, battling out for wins in September to secure a spot. So get it done now, and so that you don't have to worry about the potential tiebreaker series in late September at the stadium, like we always see.
And I'm glad you brought up these standings, because I mean, look at that runs against for the Yankees. I mean, they're at 29. That has to be like the best in the league. 29 runs against is insane. I don't think look at Baltimore. They're the next closest one in the AL East, and they're at 50.
Right. So Texas has 39. So that's second in the American League.
Yeah, 39.
Right.
Okay.
39. And then you go to the National League. Atlanta has 32.
Look at the Braves. Holy crap.
And they're plus 34, and they have the same record as one more loss than us, and they're arguably better. So see, it could be worse, Yankee fans. And then Dodgers 41, but see, they've scored a ton of runs.
They have scored a ton of runs.
75
the
compared
NL
to 54.
The NL East, what you just mentioned, the Braves, is another division I think every team can win, but the Nationals. I think all those other 4 teams I could easily see winning. Like, I know people are going to be like, "Oh, really? The Marlins?" Like, yes, the Marlins are pretty good. They'd be like probably 4th on my list of teams that could win the division, but they'd be really good. Okay,
I mean, look, a plus 13 run differential for Miami to start the year. That's not bad.
They're good. They're a good team. They're good.
Solid
they're underrated team. Underrated team. So, but yeah, back to the division as a whole. If there was a way to, I guess you could bet like a team to make the playoffs right now. I'm not sure if the odds makers are really coming down based on the 12-game start or 13-game start that some of these teams have had. I'd be surprised if they have, but I do think there's some value on the Red Sox right now. I think people, are taking their chances to dunk on the Red Sox a little bit because of their slow start. And obviously, I love that fun too. I hate the Red Sox, but they're a good team. And they're not pitching well right now, and I think they are going to be eventually pitching well because they got Ranger Suarez in there. They have Sonny Gray. They obviously have Garrett Crochet, who's seen as like the number 2 guy behind Tariq Skubal in the American League. So I'd watch out for them a little bit. I know the slow start. This is like when fans are like most into baseball is like the first couple months, and like June and July come around, then they start to drift away. So they're like really hyper focused on how teams are performing now. Just watch out for the Red Sox. That's going to be a fun series next weekend.
Yeah, they made a ton of I should say pitching acquisitions, so that they got to get into their season stride. And listen, we saw how they played us last year, right? They took game 1 of the wild card, and it took a historic performance from Schlittler to secure that series for the Yankees. So this Red Sox team, despite the slow start, should get back to that form.
That was with no Roman Anthony, who is seen as like their guy now, right? That's like their number 1 guy. So yeah, just watch out for them. They're gonna be really, really good.
Right. No doubt about it in my mind.
Sucks, dude. Why can't we like be in the Central and just like coast every year?
Well, that's because they all don't spend money.
Yeah,
collectively, so they're all buns.
We should just be.
They all like have a silent. Easy. They have like a silent agreement. It's like, let's all not spend higher than $100 million on this year's payroll, and we'll just duke it out. How does that sound?
If you look at the Mariners.
Yeah, it's not good.
That's not a good start. They're I think they're the favorite to win the American League. Maybe the Yankees are. Maybe they're behind the Yankees. But
that explains it, because I have, not to get too far off track, I have Munoz in fantasy. I don't think he has a save this year. Which, I mean, they're 4-9, so they have 4 wins. But this just goes to show they win. It seems like they are either winning by big run margins or they're winning late in games, right? They're 4 wins. Okay, they haven't won since April 3rd. So they haven't won in a week.
Jeez, man. Holy crap. They've lost 5 straight.
They've lost 5 straight. But look at their wins, right? 3-1-10, 2-1 against the Yankees, 8-0 and 5-1. The rest of the games they've lost, right? 6-4, 6-5, 5-3, 8-7 in extras. They've already played 3 extra inning games. They lost 2-1, 3-2, 3-0. So they're playing very close games. They're just not winning them. And I mean, the run differential for them, that would reflect it. Only a -2 run differential, and they're 4-9. It just shows that they're just in a lot of close games and they're just not getting the wins. So, you're right. Look at them. They were supposed to be the ALCS favorite with the Yankees or the Blue Jays, right? They're supposed to get back to where they were last year. And
that's another team like the Red Sox right now. Bet on them.
Yes.
They're buy low on them, because they're going to be really good as well.
And they have one of the better staffs in baseball, pitching wise. And so this is kind of surprising to see that their pitching doesn't even get them necessarily like a win, like an 8 inning performance from Brian Boone.
They're not scoring. I mean, we just pointed out what the Yankees are at. I guess 29 runs allowed, which is just insane. That's 12 runs better than anybody else. But they've only allowed like 42 runs or whatever that said there. So they just haven't been hitting. Brendan Donovan's been hitting.
316. Right. Luke Raley is leading in home runs. And the biggest thing is Cal Raleigh hitting 143. Rodriguez hitting 143. Naylor hitting 104. Ouch. Right. I mean, so those are the guys that are going to produce the most on your offense. Brendan Donovan is a great addition, but those are the guys that, especially Raleigh and Rodriguez, have 100+ RBI expectations year in and year out. So not getting that contribution from them thus far, definitely taking its toll. I mean, look at the OPS. I know you're a big OPS guy. 393, 481, 277. I mean, they're not even getting like doubles. They're not even they're doing nothing. They're essentially doing nothing.
You want to take a guess at the only player on that team that I have on my fantasy team?
You have Donovan, I know.
He's the best performer.
Good for you. Look at that. You would love this. 9 strikeouts, 5 walks. And look at Cal, 21 Ks, 6 walks. J-Rod, 16 Ks, 6 walks.
Overall point of today's episode, it's so early. April 10th is so early. This whole landscape could be completely flipped by September 10th. Like we genuinely don't know. Teams get off to hot starts. The Mets a couple years ago in 2024 were like 7 games under 500 at the end of May, and then they ended up going to the NLCS and almost making the World Series and facing us, ironically. But yeah, it's just like things flip around so quickly. So don't take too much into anything. Ryan McMahon, you could obviously date back to last year a little bit because he struggled with strikeouts as well, and some of the other guys. But I just think I think they're going to turn it around eventually. I don't think the bottom of the order is going to be that bad for that long. We'll see what Anthony Volpe brings to the table when he comes back. But yeah, just grain of salt, grain of salt. Make observations. What's the saying? Make observations, not conclusions. Something like that.
Yeah. In essence, nothing is certain yet. We're nothing set in stone.
Yes.
We're still in the workings here, the early seasons of the early season. Okay, so let's backtrack a second, just quick, because we do this every video where we give our series MVP predictions before the series happens, and then we come back and we give our thoughts if we were right or wrong, and then we give our actual MVP of the series again if it's right or wrong. So I'll let you go first, Andrew. We're going back to the A series very briefly. You chose Aaron Judge, and I chose Stanton. I think it's safe to say neither of us won this week. I was pretty convinced that one of us would win. I think if you go back and watch our video previewing this series and breaking down the Marlins series, I said one of us will win. I think I put that set in stone. So see, another thing, make observations, not conclusions. So I'll let you have at it. Ryan Weathers, your actual MVP. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to imagine that we picked Judge and Stanton and neither of them won, but that's okay. Yeah, I will go with Ryan Weathers, and I know there's another guy. Obviously, the only reason we won the game, one of these games, was because of Ahmed Rosario, but I'm still going to go with Ryan Weathers because I think that him performing well means more to me going forward than Ahmed Rosario. Again, until something like drastically changes, until Ryan McMahon is in this hole for another 2-3 weeks, I still don't think, Ahmed Rosario is going to have a huge impact on this team. I think he's going to be a platoon bat at most. So seeing a guy like Weathers, who I think is truly going to be able to make an impact on this season, seeing a guy like that go 8 innings, limit his strikeouts, limit his walks, not limit his strikeouts, please don't do that. Limit his walks, limit his pitch count. That was more important to me. So in a series that is dry and gloom, I'll give the MVP to the guy that went 8 innings of 1-run ball, no walks, in Ryan Weathers.
I think if we had to pick a song to perfectly encapsulate this series, it'd be the Yes Network rain delay music. Just bow your head and just be like, oh, that was brutal. And again, losing the way in which they did in game 3, where you had to wait until the 7th inning to see a damn hit. It sucks watching games like that. And while I agree with the long-term outlook on Ryan Weathers and how this might be a big launching point for him to kind of continue this success that he had in this game, I look at it in a different way. I look at it more in the now. And for me, Ahmed Rosario, I feel like, was the only other option for the Yankees, because I don't think we're ever going to pick opponents. I mean, unless it's really bad or someone throws like a perfect game, I suppose, or no hitter, maybe we'll choose an opponent. But for the most part, we're picking Yankee MVPs each series. And I think the biggest thing for me is because of Ahmed Rosario, the Yankees avoided being swept, by the Athletics when you look at it from an outside perspective. So because of Ahmed Rosario, the Yankees were able to scrap together a win. And it felt like a gritty win because it obviously his 2 home runs catapulted them to the win, but they were behind in the game. They got guys on base, and then you got the guy in there that was able to just knock in the runs, be the hero, and come up clutch, right? And that's what we were looking for in the previous 2 games. After that, we didn't get it. So I think just because they were able to get a win, steal a win, really. I mean, that was a game that you thought they probably should have lost in the end of things when you look at it, but they were able to steal a win. Ahmed Rosario kind of made my point for me that he should get more at bats. Boone gave him a shot, goes for 2 home runs. Not to say that he's going to do that every single time he's in the lineup, right? But
it had to be a pretty nice feeling.
It was a nice feeling. I mean, literally the first game they put him in the starting lineup, 2 home runs, the game-winning home run in the 8th inning. It was about as perfect as you could ask for it, other than a potential walk-off, right? You'd rather a walk-off, but at that point, you're nitpicking. So I mean, I will say,
Ahmed Rosario is a veteran. And he's on the same bench as Paul Goldschmidt. And I feel like a lot of times we think of like oh, like they're the platoon, they're the old veteran batters. He's 29, 30 years old, Ahmad Rosario. Like he's still like a young guy. He's an actual major league hitter. He's a high average hitter. So yeah, he's like a legit guy. I do think he'll have an impact. I just think it was nicer for me. It brought more of a smile to me to see a guy like Ryan Weathers have a really, really nice start because I do think he's going to impact the team more. But yeah, in this series, the only guy that really got us a win was Ahmad Rosario. So that's a good MVP pick from you. If I picked second, actually, you probably would have picked Ahmad Rosario. He was my second in my order. So
Yeah,
I can't.
And it's hard to argue because if Jeffrey Springs doesn't have the start he has, you could argue 8 innings from Ryan Weathers in a potential 1-0 Yankee win, right? Got them the win. So it didn't fall in your favor. Ryan Weathers would have been my second choice. It just comes down to your approach, looking at it as a season long performance and how he could build off that. For me, it's an in the now. The Yankees had a bad series and they were able to somehow get a win because Ahmed Rosario just went nuts, had 2 home runs. And the icing on the cake was he did it off Mark Leiter Jr., which was great, by the way. So you couldn't have wrote that any better.
Very true.
Former Yankee coming out of the pen for his new team, got himself a new contract, See you later,
which
buddy.
I hadn't heard about this either, but apparently he complained about like the Yankees. The reason why he wasn't good with the Yankees is because they didn't use him in high leverage situations. And then the A's put him in a high leverage situation against the Yankees and he just absolutely implodes. So shout out, Mark. Inside job. Love you.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. We always we love it when we send our mercenaries out there to lose other teams.
I wish we had a different lighter in the league, but Mark was good. He was okay for what we had.
Yeah. Listen, a win is a win. So I was happy to see Ahmed Rosario get that performance and get the game belt after that game. You see the pictures in the locker room, which is always cool. Now to get back to the Tampa series, we'll wrap this up. We'll pick our MVP predictions for this upcoming series against the Rays down at the Trop. Andrew, since I went first last series, I keep saying last week because I'm in football mode where it's week to week, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I went first last time. I picked Stanton, who was going to be your guess, by the way.
Yes, it was.
Just for the record. And then you went and picked Judge second. So I'll let you go first this series so that I don't steal another one of your players potentially.
Yeah, so 2 lefty pitchers this week, McClanahan and Steven Matz. So I can't go with my normal Ben Rice thing because, obviously he struggles a little bit more against left-handed pitching than he does against right-handed pitching. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the philosophy that I think Luis Hill's going to have not the greatest of starts tonight. Maybe the Yankees drop this game. And I think Max Fried being the stopper in game 2 is going to be really important, a role that he's been really, really good in. When the Yankees come off a loss, he's really, really good. I'm going to take Max Fried to be the series MVP. Now, I'm taking a risk because I'm only getting 1 game out of this guy. So he's got to really, really perform. But he went to 100 pitches in his last start. Like he's fully back. He's going to be no pitch limit anymore, whatever. He can go 110, I'm sure, if he wants to, if he's really rolling. So yeah, I'm going to take Max Fried to have a huge start against the Rays in game 2. That's going to be my MVP of the series.
Okay. And I like the matchup with Martinez. He's a solid guy, but I do think it's someone that the Yankees can potentially pounce on, I should say, and get out early and in front. And Fried, he's just looked great all year. So I'll tell you this, it was not going to be my pick, but I did debate taking a pitcher. I am not taking one. And if you're curious, it was going to be Schlittler because I kind of mentioned it earlier. I said I think Sunday is going to be a rubber match game. And my prediction was that Schlittler was going to have, a great start in that game and get the win for the Yankees, essentially shutting out the Rays offense, getting them a big win to win the series in Tampa. That was originally where my mind went. But then I got to thinking, similar thought process to you, 2 lefties this weekend, right? I can't see a situation or a scenario where maybe Ben Rice doesn't play. He's just been their most consistent bat. I think he's in this lineup either at first or at DH. Where I think there is a discrepancy for some production, an area for production is, you mentioned it, the Yankees love to get the bigger guys off their feet on the turf, whether that be Judge, whether that be Stanton, or both. I think that the DH spot will become available in this series in one of the 2 games against the lefties for sure, because I think that they do value Stanton's productivity against lefties too. I think this is a spot where Paul Goldschmidt gets some more work. We have not really seen him in the game too much, in games too much down the line. in part because Ben Rice has just been awesome at first base. You can't take the bat out of the lineup, and because Stanton was having a great start to the year. But now that he's kind of fizzled out a little bit or come back down to earth, whatever analogy you want to use,
yeah,
and because of the off day that they're going to have to give Stanton, right? He's been playing a lot. I think that opens up a spot for Goldschmidt to come into this lineup at DH or potentially play first if they want Rice to just get off his feet a little bit too. I think that there is a potential spot for Goldschmidt to make his mark on this series. We saw in the series against Seattle, he had that big 3-run home run late in the game that gave the Yankees the insurance runs to pull away and to get that win on the road. I see a similar type of productivity from Paul Goldschmidt in this series. I think he'll get a home run in this series, and I think that he'll have it in a big spot like the one against the Mariners, and I just think that there's opportunity for him.
I like that thought process, and I'm going to lay it out for you because I'm a psychic. I know exactly how the Yankees are going to go about this series. I do. I know exactly how they're going to do it.
Well, listen, you've been covering them for how long, and you've been watching every single game for how long? It's been Boone's entire career with the Yankees.
The entire time I've been doing this, so
right.
I know their tendencies. I know how they work. They have adjusted things to their credit a little bit in recent years, but I know how they work. I actually think, as you said that, I think Ben Rice is going to get the day off tonight. I think they're going to put Goldschmidt at first against the lefty. You can't take Stanton out of the DH spot against the lefty. I think he plays one more game. I think he plays against the lefty tonight. Tomorrow, and I'm going to rephrase what I said before. I'm going to change it. I don't think Judge is going to be missing from the lineup in any game this year. This year. Oh my God. This series. I think against the righty Martinez on Saturday, I think they will move Judge to DH. That's the day they give Stanton the off day. They get Judge off his feet. He's not running on the turf. He's DHing. I think Rice gets the start at first base. Maybe they mix something up in game 3. I don't think there's a way they take Rice out of the lineup for 2 of the 3 games. I don't think that's going to happen. I do think one of the 2 against the lefties, he's going to be out. I'm predicting to get tonight. But yeah, I do think Goldschmidt's a good pick because I do think Goldschmidt is going to get some run in this series. Who knows if they do give Judge an off day on Saturday, I could see them DHing Paul Goldschmidt. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're much more likely now to not take Judge out of the lineup completely and just slide him to DH and give Stanton the day off. So I think Rice is going to be left out tonight. Goldschmidt's in there at first. I think Stanton's going to be left out on Saturday. And Judge is going to slide into the DH spot. I wonder what they're going to do about the outfield at that point. Yeah, who knows? We'll see. But I do think Judge is going to get a DH game.
And yeah, for just to note, we're live streaming this. The lineups for tonight's game, they're not out yet. So again, we're just predicting what we think. I wish the lineups were out as we're recording this, because then we could have some more basis to go off for this night at least. And while I'm looking at it, I didn't realize MLB.com, they provide the numbers for certain batters against the pitchers that they're going to go up against tonight. I didn't realize that they provide this. So while I'm looking at it, I just want to highlight some notable performances. Bellinger against Steven Matz in 12 at-bats has a .333 average, a 1.13 OPS, a home run, 2 RBIs in those 12 at-bats. It doesn't really give you more than that, but and maybe this affects my pick, so maybe next time I'll do more research, but Goldschmidt in 12 at-bats against Matz has a 167 average, an 834 OPS. He's got 2 home runs, 3 RBIs.
2 homers and 12 at-bats. I mean, that's...
So maybe the home run does come tonight. Maybe they look at that and they go, the average is not great, but that OPS of 834, it shows that he can put together some extra base hits in those spots and slug and hit 2 home runs. So I'm liking my pick a little bit more, because now I do agree with you that I think tonight would be the night they put Goldschmidt in, someone that he has seen a while in his career. I think it happens tonight. So,
and I think it happens because I think the Yankees, I think Boone, not that he's necessarily worried in the sense about how the offense is playing, but I'm sure it's definitely a concern at the moment. Like, I do think it's a good opportunity to get a really good veteran hitter against a lefty that's what he's good at. That's his bread and butter. I think it's a good way to kind of juice the offense. Now, people are going to ask right away. I mean, Ben Rice has been their best hitter so far this season, so people are going to be like, why the heck is he not in the lineup? But I do think that's a good matchup for him. And now you have me looking at the exact same page. So the 4 guys with over 10 at-bats against Steven Matz. Stanton has 2 home runs. Ooh, I just shook my table. Stanton has 2 home runs in 18 at-bats. He's got a 1-dotter against Steven Matz. Aaron Judge has 14 at-bats against Steven Matz. He's got a .553 OPS in 14 at-bats against Steven Matz. You mentioned Paul Goldschmidt has 2 homers and 12 at bats, 834. And you mentioned Bellinger, 12 at bats, got a 1.1 OPS. So those are 4 guys that have some experience against Mats. The other guys really don't have all that much experience. Ben Rice has a 2 OPS.
Yeah.
2.000 OPS
2 at bats.
Into at bats. So what does that really mean?
And
But
McMahon
should be an exciting
McMahon's 0
series.
for 5. Everyone's curious.
Good note. Nice. Randall Grichuk has a 900 OPS against. I don't think they're really going to find. Maybe they take. I don't know. Maybe they find.
I will say though, you mentioned Stanton and his productivity against Matz. That does concern me that he's had 18 at bats. So he's the most familiar with Steven Matz. So maybe they don't bench Stanton tonight because of that. So
I didn't think they were going to bench Stanton tonight. Saturday.
Okay.
They're not going to bench Stanton against a lefty. They're not going to do that.
So we'll see. So you're just saying that outright benching of Ben Rice tonight. I got it. Okay.
I think Ben Rice is going to be benched, and I think just Paul Goldschmidt's going to play first. Yeah, that's what I would predict.
We'll see how it unfolds. Again, the lineup not out, but the game tonight, 7:10, first pitch. Yes.
Yeah, 7:10.
It'll be Luis Gil against Steven Matz. Luis Gil making his season debut as he tries to find a spot for himself in this rotation for this season with the Yankees. The Yankees again 8-4, Rays 5-7. So hopefully the Yankees can build off what was a brutal 3-game stretch against the A's. They were able to get a win, but it just was not pretty. And then games 2 and 3, not pretty.
Feels like they can only go up from here.
Right. That's what it feels like. And I hope I'm wrong about McMahon. I do think that he can be a big part of this team. His defensive qualities are very good. You can write home about those qualities, and that's a good reason to keep him in games. He made the diving play in the dugout in that wild card game. So, I'm not ignoring everything he's done that's been well. I just don't. It's hard to put a guy in there that just isn't even giving you competitive at bats. So I do hope that I'm eventually wrong. I want McMahon to succeed.
Yeah, of course. I do think there's a chance. It's probably a high chance that he's not in the lineup tonight. I think Rosario against a lefty. I think they love that.
Yeah, so I would agree. I would agree. Well, let's hope for a sweep. We always hope for a sweep, but in seriousness, let's just get a series win. Big divisional series this weekend. We talked about it at length, how important these divisional games can be at the end of the year, especially when you're looking at postseason seeding and division title winnings and things like that. So Yankees, let's go get it done, baby.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, so that'll do it. Thank you for tuning in, everybody, to the Allen Hour. We will be back here on, did we decide Sunday or Monday, Andrew? I'm forgetting when exactly, but
I don't know exactly when the schedule has it. Eventually. We'll be here. Don't worry.
We'll be here. We'll have you covered. We'll be breaking down the Tampa series on Sunday or Monday, and then we'll preview the Angels series as the Angels of Anaheim come into town to play the Yankees in the Bronx. So we'll have all that here on the Allen Hour. Follow us on social media, subscribe to the channel, like the video, drop a comment down below. Let's start a conversation about the Yankees, about the hitting, McMahon, whatever you want to talk about, Luis Gil tonight. Drop it down below in the comments. Subscribe to the channel. And thanks for tuning in, everybody.